Hello, it's Mark here with day 2 of my social distancing diaries. And I haven't actually clapped eyes on anybody because I've not left the house. Now, yesterday, things got a whole lot more serious in the UK because we've kind of gone onto lockdown. People aren't meant to be leaving the house unless it's for absolutely essential things, like they're like a key worker that needs in the NHS or whatever, need to go to work, or doing emergency shopping, medical stuff, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, we're meant to stay indoors, and that's pretty much what I've done today. So yes, one good thing about today though is that I have nailed how to use Zoom like the rest of the planet seems to be using Zoom. But yeah, we had a team meeting or a team get together on Zoom, so that was good. That was felt like kind of moving forward and doing stuff. And otherwise, I've just been kind of working on writing some course materials for when this is all over. And another little project my boss has given me, which is actually to do with books, but more on that later. So, don't worry about the cough. I feel fine. They're saying that, feeling fine. I'm at that point, I think, like a lot of people, where even if I cough, I'm just like, oh my God, here we go. This is it. Um, Earlier on, I suddenly realised I was feeling very hot. It was like, oh my God, have I got a fever? And it was like, no, actually, I was just, I was just sat next to the window that the sun was coming through. Though spring is here. How do I know it's spring? Because earlier on, I opened the patio doors and then spent a good 5 minutes being chased around the flat by a very large, about as big as my thumb, just woken up grumpy bee who seemed to be attracted to the colour of my hoodie. So, yes, I got chased around the flat by a great big bee. And I think that's a sign that spring's here, really, isn't it? Which is good, I guess, apart from the being chased around the flat. So, in terms of kind of my tip for homeworking, I think what this is a good tip, not just for homeworking, but just generally working anyway, is to have a kind of daily to-do list. And that to-do list can change, from day to day, obviously. Might even change during the day. But I think I've found the way that works for me. Now, other people's minds might not work like this, and people do work in kind of different ways. But what I do is I pick the one task that, if that was the only thing that I was going to get done that day, that would be my top task. That would be the one thing. If everything went completely wrong, but I managed to get one thing done, I pick that task at the beginning of the day. Then what I do is pick two tasks after that. They're my kind of secondary tasks. If I get the first task done, then I can move on to the second ones. And it could be that if I don't get round to the second one, or second ones, one of those might become the priority task for the next day, or maybe not, depending, because some things are urgent but not important, and some things are important but not urgent, and stuff like that. And you can really kind of, you've really got to figure out what is the one thing that is both kind of important and urgent that needs to be done. And then what I do is have a little list of kind of additional stuff. If things went absolutely brilliantly, what would I then go on to do? And I got this because I use something called a productivity planner. Sounds kind of all corporate and stuff. I guess it kind of is, but it kind of works. And as you can see, if you can see that there, that's the most important task of the day, followed by the secondary tasks of importance, any additional tasks, and then just notes. And at the bottom, you can work out kind of how productive did you think you were that day. So you can buy things like this, or you can just write out a list. Now, the other thing I was going to say, if you don't get through the list, don't beat yourself up. Because at the moment, this is a really strange time in terms of, being locked down, being in quarantine, in effect, not seeing people, having to change the way we work. Sometimes not being able to do some of the tasks that you would normally do at all. If you don't get through everything, don't beat yourself up. I think at this stage, if as long as we're doing something, as long as we're making some headway, then I think that's important. But if you're looking at a task list and thinking, well, I only got 2 out of those 5 done, or 1 out of those 3 done, you've still got 1 done. So that's progress, isn't it? So I wouldn't really kind of beat yourself up about it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, on to my book recommendation to keep yourself amused and a bit of escape. I think at the moment this is a time when, you may have had plans, but now they've kind of been cancelled or changed in many ways, whether it's at work or your home life and stuff like that. Well, what I'm going to recommend is probably the greatest book about your plans going wrong. And it's an old book. And that is The Odyssey by Homer. Now, what I love about The Odyssey is, first of all, we don't even know whether Homer existed. It's kind of debatable, apparently. So we're not quite sure who wrote this. We give the name of Homer to the person who might have written this, but that in itself is a mystery. But this is about a guy called Odysseus, and it's part of the kind of Greek myths. Odysseus went off to fight in the Trojan Wars. But this is about his journey home, which should have been simple. Just get in the boat, go home. No, went totally wrong. They got lost, they got blown off course, all kinds of things happened. So this is about, it's where we kind of, get the phrase, it's a bit of an odyssey, comes from Odysseus. But there's everything in here. There's kind of like moral tales. There's things that really make you think about life. But more than that, there's monsters and there's vengeful gods and stuff like this. In terms of anything, it's kind of like, if this was written now, it would be like this really ultra cool fantasy novel. But it's kind of ancient Greek myths. But also as well, I just love the way it's written. It's kind of a poem. Now, if you don't like poetry, don't worry, because it's not that kind of really obscure poetry. It's like a narrative. So it does kind of take you through the story. So if you really, again, want to get lost in something, try The Odyssey. Now, I'm going to give an extra book recommendation, because one of the characters in here is a witch called Circe. And in The Odyssey, she's quite an evil or difficult character. But I'd like to recommend Madeline Miller's Circe. This turns that part of The Odyssey on its head. And it tells the story from Circe's point of view. And it becomes, instead of like just this difficult witch who's delaying these sailors getting home, it actually turns into a real big story about a woman who is trying to do the best she can and be the best that she could be in a world of men that is railing against her. It's a proper putting a woman into, turning the tables and saying, let's not tell it from the man's point of view, let's tell it from the woman's point of view. It's a proper feminist novel. It's also so well written, and the story is just great. I think sometimes retellings of old myths can be a bit hackneyed. This isn't. I raced through this. Probably one of my favourite books. Also, her other one about Patroclus and Achilles, the Song of Achilles, is worth reading. But anyway, so there you go. So, Greek myths and stuff, this recommendation. The Odyssey, Circe. Anyway, so that's day 2. Day 3, not quite sure what's going to happen. But no doubt we'll be at home because government told us to. Tonight, going to try and get a bit of reading done. So maybe I'll do some more recommendations tomorrow. Okay, so day 2 done.